Okay. Yeah, Susan. Am I in the Garden of Eden already? Hey, Susan, can you hear me okay on YouTube? There's always a little bit of a delay. Sounds like it. Can y'all on Telegram say something to test the sound? Make sure it works.
Testing one, testing.
Yes, we can hear.
Yep. Hi, Justin. Hi, everybody.
Great.
Hi, Justin. Hi, all.
Hey, guys.
Hi, Justin.
Hello. Hey, everybody. It's been a minute since we've done these. I've been kind of doing some soul searching, which has been needed. Not needed, but well, it's always needed. It's always good to find yourself and sit with yourself. Hope everyone's been doing well. So yeah, just to give a little summary on what's been happening with me recently, I just spent the past, let's see, about 10 days ish on the road. I was in Louisiana for the most part of it, driving around for a good little bit and found a good campsite to do a 7-day water fast, which was really cleansing and enlightening in a sense. You know, it's always good to experience that next level stillness of just taking away the food and the juice and any of that altogether. So I had been doing what 27 days of juice prior to that, and then I jumped into 7 days of water, and then I broke that with some juice, and did 3 more days of juice. And yesterday was the first day that I have started to eat some solid food, and I actually brought some dragon fruit that I'm gonna have while we're on this call. Oh, I forgot my spoon. I'll have to go grab that. But yeah, it was quite a process for sure, especially doing the shows and everything. I don't know if any of y'all caught. I mean, I kept it together, but my energy was pretty low. So it was especially the way that we do shows with these 3 hour long-winded ones. It's always a fun experience to um, yeah, to be a part of. But especially when you're like that, it adds an extra challenge to it. Hey Christy, hey Chris, hey JC, hey Emily, Mr. Hyperbaric, Patty, Wanda, Annie, Ronnie. Hey guys. Yeah, how about that show with Marie and Charlie just a second ago? That was another great one. I love just like the open ended, let's dive into everything. And that's a really important topic of just covering sort of the new age deceptions and how they are so good at steering people into these concepts where there is a lot of truth to it, but there's a lot of lies sewn in there as well. So if you're not vigilant and you're not, you're not going to God, if you're going to other people for information, then you're always leaving yourself open to this sort of betrayal at some point or another. And that's the design of the left brain world. It's all there just to lure people in and to take them down dead ends and pathways that go nowhere. But yeah. Um, so who's on Telegram? Who's got something? Anyone got any questions or topics or something on your mind? Story you want to share? What's going on today? Nobody? All right, we can just sit here in silence, and that could be a fun one too. We can just focus on our breathing. I'll show you all a little bit around. my aunt and uncle's porch in Magnolia, Texas, which is just north of Houston. We've got a really lovely place. And I'll be staying here for at least a little bit of getting my um, passport renewed so that when I go down into Mexico, I've got all that squared away. It's so funny, like bureaucracy, government things. Like they say, it's going to take, if I do expedited, it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks to get it done. Like, it's absurd. All right, well, y'all think of something to say. I'm gonna go grab a spoon so I can eat this dragon fruit.
Hopefully you won't need a passport soon.
And FYI for everybody that's listening here, I'm AZ on YouTube.
All right, I stepped away for a second. I heard Ichabod say something about hopefully we won't need passports soon.
Yep, that's the plan. Open borders all around the world.
Yeah, yeah, I mean,
Trump, get moving.
exactly. Yeah, I was debating on mine because mine expires next year, and I was like, you know what? I'll just go ahead and get it done with, and then there's no way that will have any semblance of need in 10 years' time. There's no way that it'll remain that way.
Hopefully a lot sooner than that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yes, could you maybe tell a little bit of that more? Because I've gotten some conflicting information regarding your birthright, birth trust, and there are here in the Netherlands two major groups. One of them is saying you have to go totally sovereign and you have to claim it and have to go out of all the system. And the other one is more leaning towards you don't have to claim it, just to accept it like a beneficiary. And well, they've got also like a diplomatic passport where you say I'm a sovereign being and I don't adhere to all the structures and systems that are going on. I find it a bit confusing to distill the truth within all the narratives. So.
Yeah, so I kind of see it as, if we had wanted to escape the system prior to this kind of stuff happening, it was a lot more involved with claiming sovereignty, and you could do it, you could go that route, and it certainly worked. And I think there are still some aspects to that do play a big role. We can kind of push the envelope a little bit ahead of time to make it happen a little bit faster. But I also kind of think that as soon as you get into paperwork and, trying to get into that thought process of like, how much time am I going to have to be spending doing this kind of stuff? And if I'm relying on a paperwork to prove that I'm a child of God, that I am a sovereign, well, am I really a sovereign instead of just owning the fact that I am a child of God and that there is nothing that can stop me? And any sort of legalese and bullshit is just smoke and mirrors. And so that to me seems like a faster route. Is just owning it in every sense that comes across to you, without, I don't know. I go back and forth. But personally, I don't feel very drawn to doing a lot of paperwork and trying to go that route. And it just seems like a mind trap to get stuck in. It seems like a way to be consuming a lot of my time, without, getting much anywhere. Because I do think that this is all coming for all of us. Because it wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be right if we just like slowly trickled into this way and people just had to suffer and jump through all these hoops and have to prove all of these things to prove that they're children of God. No, the whole point of the system is that everything that was illegal is going away. Everything that was unlawful in God's eyes is going away, which includes all of that straw man bullshit. It includes all of the birth certificate, all of the income tax, all of, debt usury, all of it. Like, it all has to go, and it will go. And so I think, yeah, that's kind of a convoluted answer, but that's kind of my perspective on it. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
See, in 2014, I'm thinking. It was just so difficult for me because I felt, how do I say, anytime I had to get into all the legalese and read all of these statutes and all these other things and put the documents together, I just felt so ew all the time. So I filed it and then I dropped it and I haven't thought about it again. And I don't know that it did anything for me except stress me out and make me feel awful.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think finding that balance of like, what can I do to stand in my power to say no to this bullshit fake system without giving my power away to another sort of mind trap where I'm just spending my time doing all sorts of things. Because there are ways that we can stand up and say no, and that no, like, I am a child of God. I am going to cross this border or whatever else. And I don't have a ton of experience doing so, but I have seen people who are just very adamant and they know who they are. They know they are a child of God, and they know that they have a right to exist and a right to be. And it eventually works. And like, you can always play like, well, what's the worst thing that they can do to me? And, ultimately the worst thing they can do is kill me, which is not the end of the world. But most of the time, the worst that they'll do is they might throw you in jail for, I think 48 hours is the most that they'll do it, and the most that they can without it constituting as kidnapping, more so. I mean, it is kidnapping to arrest you in the first place, but not saying that we all have to go that route, but I think we're each given opportunities to stand in our power, to stand in our sovereignty, and to stand in who we are and say no. So whatever God's presenting to us is for us to do. And if that means, I don't doubt Peter Wilson's role and what he's doing and what he's teaching. I feel like he's got a calling to demonstrate and teach people who are wanting to go that route how to do that. And some people have a lot more passion, and some people really want to go, really get in, like, fight on the front lines in that sort of way. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But just me personally, speaking from my experience and how I want to spend my time, I don't really want to get in the weeds that much. I'd rather just own the bigger picture, the bigger stance that I am a child of God and nothing stands in the way of that. It's quiet today. Anyone else got anything? Questions, comments, story?
Yeah, I was just letting your words sink in, and it feels to me the same, that just the fact that somebody once said, just the fact that you were born is meaning that you were given your right to be here. And any system or any way that is asking you to prove that you are who you really are is just an inverted way of just saying, well, here I am.
Right.
So, yeah, I loved your response on it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean it's fraud at the end of the day, and fraud vitiates anything, any contracts, any of it. It's just a long string of frauds that they have us all playing in, and yeah, we can break down those frauds individually through paperwork and sort of go that route, and it is effective because you can sort of pick it apart at the seams and unravel it, or you can just jump to the end and say, no, this is all bullshit, this is all fraud, and I don't stand for any of it, and whatever sort of repercussions you claim to want to do in this exact moment are also fraudulent. And I understand that God's laws are absolute, and if you break those laws, like, you will suffer the consequences, and I won't, because I'm operating within God's laws. So just standing within that power, standing within that sovereignty, and then trusting that God is going to provide in every sense. And that, you know, that was a big part of the last show with Marie and Charlie, was just that trust, you know, that absolute trust that God will provide, and the rewards are built into the system when we truly trust in it. And I think this plays in the same sort of way.
Like a dark energy when you go into all that legal stuff. But sorry, my TV is reverberating. I've got my computer hooked up to the TV. That I felt I was living in here, and I felt that was I have to play within their system in order to get out of their system in a way. So I went through that whole exercise, but I always felt not good during the whole process. When I got out of it and just stopped thinking about it and started thinking with less fear and more that things will be okay, and started learning more in spirituality, because I was living very dark in the whole system. I was raised that way. Everything is about money. Everything is about what other people think. And so it was so good for me to finally just shut that, because it got so dark for me, to shut that and find another way, which is now the way I was so glad to find Charlie and all of you. My life has been so much better since. So that's all I'll say about that. But I went ahead and did the process, but I hated every second of it.
Yeah. So thanks for sharing your experience. There's firsthand. That's kind of how I had imagined I'd get to that certain point too. So thank you for sharing, because that's that. You know, true. We can gain wisdom from others. We can gain wisdom in many different ways. The hardest way to gain wisdom is through experience of actions. And that's where we have to learn, you know, that the stove is hot. If we touch it, it's going to burn us, because it does burn us. And then we can gain wisdom through hearing and trusting others who are also speaking with that place of wisdom. And they tell us that, yeah, the stove is hot, don't touch it. But if we skip that step and still touch the stove, then we're not really gaining that wisdom. You know, we're not really utilizing that shortcut that person who already did gain that wisdom has provided. And that's what's so beautiful about people like Charlie and Santos and Josh and all of these beautiful Gnostic warriors, is they have gained a lot of wisdom, and they're giving us an opportunity to take a little shortcut of getting to the point where, yeah, I mean, you still have to do the work and you still have to go connect with God, but they're providing an easy route to say, hey, like, there is another way, and it doesn't have to be through this information kind of means, and here's what I've learned and here's what I can share. But I just always find that a helpful little reference of, you know, I don't always have to burn myself in order to learn everything. I can just listen.
I love that analogy of the stove. That's real visual way of knowing and what you say.
Yeah, it's helpful. I mean, because we can be so stubborn sometimes. We're like, oh fuck, I don't care what that person said about this. Like, I'm still gonna do it anyway. And then we learn, so it's like, okay, well, you had to burn yourself in order to learn, but I'm gonna find as many opportunities to not burn myself and just find those people and God ultimately, because when we're trusting in God, then we only trust the people who are being led by God. But God speaks to us in many different ways. So when we have that inner knowing, that higher discernment of who we can trust based on who's actually speaking to God and using God to share their wisdom through, then we can learn in such a exponentially quicker kind of way. Which is why Jesus talked about, great. I'm paraphrasing, but you will do all these things and more, or greater than, however he says it. But basically, that he shows the way, and we're here to expand upon it. And that's why, like, this generation is going to be magnificent. But you talk about the kids coming up, or the kids after that. Wow, like, they're going to blow us away. We're going to have no idea what's even coming, because once we take all these limits off, these artificial barriers that keep them from growing in the way that they can, there's no stopping it. There's absolutely no stopping it, and it's just going to grow and grow and grow and grow, which is incredible, because we won't even recognize this place, and I don't. It's just gonna get wild. I get so lost in dreaming about it.
Hi everyone.
Hey Moriarty, how you doing, brother?
How's it going?
Good. What's on
This
your
is my
mind?
first chat.
Oh, nice. Welcome. What's on your mind today?
Well, actually, I haven't spoken with anybody in the group yet, and I want to get to know people better, and so I'm going to start being part of the chats. I guess I was waiting a little bit to just kind of get my brain around things a little bit better, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to be a part of it. I'm really excited about what's going on. I kind of made a change to start improving my health before I ran into Charlie, and I just saw one of his posts on Facebook one day and went, oh, that looks unusual. I'm going to check that out. It was something grabbed me. and I've just been kind of dumbstruck by the whole thing, and it's such a shift from conventional thought. That it's once in a while when I sit back and think about the bigger picture, it's like, I can't believe I've been this stupid.
That's amazing.
Like I'm 66 years old, and when I look back on like, I remember as a child thinking, wow, people actually in Australia, they stand upside down. That's weird. And even when you're 5 or 6 years old, you have these obvious realizations, and I don't know. It's just everything has been amazing. I've been doing juicing, and I've noticed my health change dramatically, and I've got something called atopic dermatitis that I've had all my life, and it's a miserable condition, and wow, it's ever since I changed my diet and gotten on to mainly the fruit, my wife thinks that I'm insane, but ever since I changed my diet and got onto it, I've really noticed a huge difference, and I've noticed a huge difference in my like the way I think, and
Right.
it's really unbelievable, and 6 months ago, if you told me, how do you love someone, I wouldn't have been able to answer the question. And I think getting to that place of love, one connection I never made in my life was doing something about the condition of your body, because your brain is a part of your body. But for some reason, I never really kind of had that inner connection with the understanding that I needed to move forward, because there were times when I was exercising, but I wasn't really doing anything. I was still eating the same kind of food and all that. And so this is really the first time when I said, I just can't. I can no longer stand to make other beings suffer because of my presence on the planet.
Right.
And that shift has made it so easy, because now I can say, I don't even have to think about this. This isn't something that I need to roll over in my mind anymore. I'm at a place where I can. This is it. I understand it, and wow, it really is. It's a huge realization for me.
That's awesome. That's a great testimony. Thank you for sharing, brother. Yeah, it truly is amazing, the clarity. That's been the biggest thing for me. I mean, I didn't really have any chronic conditions that I was dealing with, but I obviously have noticed a huge improvement just in my general health. But the clarity has been the largest thing. I can't even explain how, that to me is just, there's no way I'll ever go back, because I don't ever want to lose that. I don't want to ever lose this connection to God, and connection to each other that I have, and connection to myself. It's profound. So yeah, thank you for going on that journey. And your wife will come around. Just be that lighthouse, and she'll see it. When you start to feel like you feel better than when you were 20, and you start jumping around, she'll notice something. You'll be like, hey, he's on to something. We'll get there.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm just saying, just keep your head down and do the work, and let the results speak for themselves.
Exactly. And that's the best way too, because it's actually an egoic trap to get stuck in that way of trying to convince someone through words that's not ready to be convinced.
I've struggled so much with that, especially I had to exit Facebook, because I could see it was just contributing to the fog in my brain, and that fog is lifting, and it's really an incredible experience, because I always sort of thought of myself as being smart, and but when I look back now, I think, wow, you've been living in this shroud for decades, and I was diagnosed years ago with ADHD. I think everybody got diagnosed with that at one point or another. But I really struggled seriously, intensely with it. I had a hard time. I couldn't concentrate for more than 5 minutes unless I made a really conscious effort to do so. And now it's effortless. I can sit down, I can go into a trance and meditation, and 5-10 minutes tops. I lose track of time, an hour and a half goes by, and it feels like 10-15 minutes. It's incredible, it really is, and that's the connection. For me, that's the profound thing, is when you change your body, when you change your diet, and you change your health, it changes your spiritual connection. It changes your brain, your ability to connect.
Absolutely.
With that force.
Absolutely, and you see why they work so hard to distort the things that bring us health, and the things that we should be eating, because everything is designed to take us away from our connection to God. That's all. That is the grand conspiracy of them all, is to just find any way to distort us from the truth, to distort us away from God. And food, as we've learned, from Charlie and others, has to be the foundation. And that's an easy one to sort of subvert, because they have all of these tempting ways to put things in front of us, and just distort a few industries and change some advertisements here and there and make things taste really good, and there you go, we're stuck. we're stuck rooted in our uncles, and
Trap.
that's what we got to get out. We got to get out of. But yeah, it's amazing. This whole journey is incredible.
Yeah, yeah, if you told me a year ago what I was doing, what I'm doing now, I probably never would have believed it. Mainly because I think I felt kind of, how do I change this? Everybody around me is eating meat, everybody's doing it. And one day I woke up and I said, well, just do it. You know, just do it. Just get up in the morning, get a juicing machine, make the juice, make some for your spouse, and just do it. Don't worry about, but you know, and when Jennifer says, would you like a hamburger? Would you know, I just say, no, I'm going to do a salad, or I'm going to do juicing tonight, and you know, go right ahead. And it's easy. You can just say no thanks. You know,
Right.
no big deal.
Yeah, and we stand in our own power that way too. And we boldly declare that we're not, and it's not even really that bold, but we're just declaring that I am, you know, I am my own, and I don't need to be governed or steered in any sort of way, even by those who I know and love me, but they're unwilling participants of that same system, just pushing along, you know, just because we've all been trained to. So good on you, brother.
Yeah, I'm just thrilled. I started taking a course in Udemy today, actually, about 3 of them, on songwriting. I'm a guitar player
Nice.
and a piano player, a little bit of piano, mainly guitar. And I started for years, decades, you know, I've been thinking, what the heck, you know, music is a part of you, you know, and it's, for years I've been making excuses and saying, oh, you know, you have to play in bars and you have to do this. And I just realized, you know, this clarity is an incredible gift, because, you know, I'm starting to realize those little voices, you know, that's not you, you know, that's not me thinking that. That's coming from somewhere, but it's not good, and it's just a self-defeating thought. And I'm making those thoughts go away.
Yeah, I mean, we're all just frequency and vibration. We're all just waves. So we are our sound or light, you know, depending on how what frequency you're at, it's sound or light. And so we are a song. We are the universe. Yeah, it's going to be amazing the amount of people who are, I mean, already within this community that are just so naturally gifted with music and singing and performing and things of that nature. And I just imagine once we all have the complete freedom to pursue our passions boldly and all the time, it's just going to burst forth, and we'll all just be singing and dancing and playing all the time.
You know, I was thinking, I was doing, I don't know if you've ever heard of Joe Dispenza.
I've heard of, I haven't listened to too much.
He's really, he's an interesting guy. He's a chiropractor, and but he does, for the last, I don't know, 5 or 10 years or so, he's been all about teaching meditation. And that's kind of where I was. I was kind of working on that prior to getting introduced to our group, but I made so much progress beyond that. But anyway, he's a really interesting guy. He really helped me to understand. He doesn't talk much about diet and that kind of thing, you know, which, you know, I think he's definitely missing the mark on that. But he's done so much research in meditation and the physical effects that transform people, that actually change their genes. And he's actually got scientists testing this, you know, people who are in meditation and what's going on in the room in terms of energy. They can measure all that stuff, right? And put electrodes on your head and see what your brain is doing. And it's fascinating stuff. But meditation is the key. I mean, right now, I'm at the point where my brain is calmed down enough that I can just go there, and I don't find my mind wandering anymore the way it used to. And it's just becoming kind of effortless. It's so exciting.
Yeah, it truly is. Well, thanks for hopping on, brother. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, nice to finally talk to you.
Yeah, for sure. Is there?
Hey, Justin.
Hey, Joel. Yeah, go ahead.
Cool, man. Thank you. Yeah, just really appreciate everything. Been hearing from Charlie recently. It's just getting, and everybody just, yeah, really resonating and starting to make a lot more sense as far as what is acidic and what is not. Just that delineation is getting so clear. It's incredible.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, I've definitely been approaching things from a totally different perspective, which has been working, but this just put me into a different relationship with manifestation and trust. I think in the shamanic world, it's about controlled folly. You don't participate in the folly, but you control as if you are an actor in the movie, so that nobody notices you, so that you can freely do your work and, you know, not offend people or not like be too bright. Like you sort of, you don't dull your eyes ever. You allow yourself to go through your math and perception, so that, you know, no one would ever know that you are pushing the boundaries of perception. And that's been so powerful to learn. And I was able to like really help people from that place. And so I honor that gift and that capacity. But now I'm seeing what Charlie's saying as being no folly. And that from that, the magnetism that develops from that will create a life where you no longer have to be an actor. And so that's been a massive breakthrough, and it's pretty intense. I'm pretty, you know, as a provider, I'm really looking at just walking away from, you know, the way in which I generate income and move into a different relationship with what I purchase and how I live. And, you know, I grew up watching Kwai Chang Kang and Kung Fu and just walk the earth, you know, and he's a martial artist like me, and that's all I've ever wanted to do. And now I'm like realizing that's totally coming, and there's no reason to like sort of wait any longer. And then just the years of meditation and the years of lucid dreaming have just, the rewards are just pouring in. I'm just traveling through sacred geometry at night and just being inside of the intelligence and getting to travel in it and around it and observe and feel and see and remember. And you guys have been a massive catalyst, so thank you.
Nice. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, it's wild thinking about it, because when you say that, it kind of, you know, it makes sense why that way of pursuing higher levels of being was attractive for the longest time, because for the past, you know, 6,000 years at least, every semblance of emergence in the public eye has been snuffed out and killed, just over and over and over and over again. And so that's almost like a protective barrier in a sense. It seems like a protective barrier, at least, and maybe it was on a grander scale, because, you know, as we're getting into Revelation, a lot of Revelation is talking about being patient and having that patience. And seemingly, by some interpretations, this time period we were supposed to be patient, because this darkness was sort of allowed to rule, to have its time owning the game and doing what it would with us, and just getting us kind of darker and darker and darker. And that's all for the grand experience of experiencing an era like that, of that subversion and control. So you speaking of those shamanic traditions of sort of dimming your light in order to protect yourself makes sense from that capacity. But now what we're learning and what we're rising from is that an end of that era, and with that comes the magnetism that you speak of, that wearing that armor of God and that absolute trust that the time has changed. I mean, even prior to, you'd still have the armor of God, but sometimes we still have to let go of our fear of death in that sort of sense, and that death was often the thing that was used to sort of snuff anyone out that was doing that. But now we're at that point to where that protection is much more physical and absolute and firm in every sort of way, even preserving this life form in this body, so that we can step into our Christed light and truly wear it and own it and say, no, fuck you. I'm gonna be exactly who I am, and I'm gonna shine as boldly and brilliantly as possible. And I know that God's got my back. I know that nothing's ever gonna let me down. And the more that we own that, the stronger it gets, and the stronger
Absolutely.
our faith gets. And yeah, it just continues to grow and grow and grow, and there's no limit to it. That's like it's like the winning role in a game. You know, it's what gets us through. And when we figure this out, there's no stopping, which is so
Yes.
exciting.
I really think it's tied to the critical mass. So shamans talk a lot about human mass being the most fascinating aspect of energy. When you can get a large group of people to all align in one goal, and to have to be able to perceive, in the same position. It's an alignment that has this incredible effect, and that's how dreamers have navigated and learned about things, as because they kind of just used power plants and kind of entered through that discovery process and didn't really follow a manual, and so they came up with things that are maybe totally different, but they've always been interested in human mass, and we seem to be in a time where critical mass is about to tip the scales. And so, the reason they adopted controlled folly was because of the Spanish conquest. They thought as seers that because they were operating at such a unique capacity, that they would be able to survive the tyranny of those times. And they were trusting they just hadn't learned a certain lesson about their realities that they were navigating. And so a lot of their most powerful people were killed during that time, and they had to really reevaluate things. And so they discovered this, what they call stalking or controlled folly. This transition we're in is every person that is willing to take that leap of faith will, and it has to be a true leap of faith, not a reckless one where you're just like running from all your shit. So you're just going to pretend that you have no problems and you can just walk away from all your debt and all the pain you caused. It's got to be real work. Nobody in here should be thinking, I can just, this isn't about escaping. This is entering. And entering silence is really intense. The more and more silence you accumulate, you realize that you are moving into the place where you're moving into the unknown. There's nothing to hold on to in silence. It's infinite. And you learn about the active side of infinity, and that's where the lucidity shows up. And Charlie was referencing the amount of light that God eventually offers those that are, can reach that place. You're gonna find out what your vessel can handle. And so you don't want to go to this place prematurely. It's like Josh X said, it's the turtle in the hair. We're here to take this slow, methodical, but intent-based journey to return home. And
Right.
it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, truly. Yeah, well said. And it does have to be, and that's what's so perfect about this learning experience that we're going through. This whole life and how it's set up, and this creation is it's very pragmatic, and it has to be, because you can't just skip to the end and not hurt yourself. Like we have to learn sometimes through pain, but we have to learn somehow all the steps along the way in order to progress without getting to the end and like just wiping ourselves out or hurting other people or whatever else, because the further we go, the more powerful we do become. And so it's part of it to have that sort of have that slow and steady. That's why it's built into it, because you can't just hand a toddler a set of matches and say go have fun. You got to teach them. You got to teach them like what this does, and this is how it works, and this is what we do with it, and they grow and they learn with it, and then eventually they're able to do it on their own, or with like driving or anything. We have to learn how to utilize these tools, these vessels that we're inhabiting, before we can actually before we can own them efficiently without hurting ourselves or others. It's the same sort of approach.
For sure. Yeah, I worked with a lot of shamans are functional schizophrenics, right? So the capacity to move your perception isn't something to seek out without God.
Yeah.
But that's what a lot of shamans do.
Mm.
So they're and perceiving other layers of the onion on a literal level. They're actually getting into these, fascinating places. But yeah, if you're giving, and I met people that did it at a young age, and I don't know how that works or whatnot, but they were able to do things. I mean, schizophrenia is real, so it's not like I'm surprised, but how functional they were and how dangerous they were going around teaching people what they were teaching. But it was, and most people were smart not to go work with them. I was just like, I was so drawn. It was just my calling, my contract to go into these contracts with these people and learn about the capacity to move your perception. And because it was clear to me, it was a key, an aspect of our being that was a resource that was untaught and discussed. And so everyone assumes you take psychedelics and that you're on a drug. All that psychedelic does is teach you about what your being is capable of doing with or without drugs. None of the drugs are necessary. And the journey that we're all on, this purification, leads to expansion and perception, and it isn't something to do and approach recklessly or to learn from people who are reckless. So I really appreciate the way Charlie set it up and the way Josh and Santos sort of as well, like they offer different perspectives that makes it much broader, and collectively they're in their own sort of triangles of the circle. It's just incredible. We're so fortunate.
We truly are, and and we'll just keep expanding from here to where we'll have more. We've got these few to start us off and to kickstart the movement, and then more and more will just come on board, and soon enough you'll have Joel up there talking to people and sharing his gnosis and what he's learned and teaching martial arts and all these sorts of things, and Brother Aaron's going to be leading fasting courses or whatever else, or meditation or I don't know, anything that comes to his mind, but just teaching so well, and we'll just be the teacher students, because we're always students and we're always teaching and just owning that role at all times. It's amazing, truly. Yeah, I get so excited.
Me too, man. Thank you for being excited.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Joel. I appreciate you sharing. Does anyone else want to hop on? Anyone else got a question or comment or thing on their mind want to share?
Hey, Justin.
Hey, Becky. Good to hear from you.
Hey, everybody. How's everyone doing?
Fantastic.
Hey, good. I have a question, Justin. How is it going to happen that the true truth of Christ is going to infiltrate. I mean, it has to like filter, it has to infiltrate, it has to like go into all these churches. How, do you have any insight on that? How is that going to happen?
Most churches will fall. I mean, Revelation is very clear about this. Matthew is very clear about this. I would say a vast majority of churches will fall and fade away. Not in any sort of violent sense, but just people will realize like that they've been the ones that have been hiding the truth, and they'll be the last ones to admit the truth to people because they're so stuck in those ways. Now, there will be some good churches out there that recognize that they can be a leader in breaking away from the system, and they can be establishments of community to sort of pave the way and teach the holistic truth and the real truth. But I would say, based on the prophetic teachings of the Bible, most churches will fall, and there's not going to be any sort of one-size-fit-all approach to it. It's just going to be a recognition that everything that Charlie teaches, everything in this world was fake. And so we just break apart every single bit of it and say, okay, this was fake, that was fake, this was fake. And it's pretty soon hardly anything from the old world is standing. And it means we get to create a new one. Now, I have no idea what that will look like specifically, because it's largely up to us how quickly and how smoothly that transition goes. And that's where it really gets important to do the internal work, because we can't be relying on anyone, even Trump and the Q team. We can't be relying on them to feed us all of this information and make it all happen hunky-dory. It has to come from us. They're going to give us an opportunity, and I'm eternally grateful for this opportunity. They already are giving us a huge opportunity, but we have to seize that opportunity. We have to step forward, and we have to share the truth. We have to embody the truth. So it looks in however we really want it to. It's very dynamic. It's very open. It's very fluid, and the timeline is very unclear, because it's all a choice. We get to determine how long this is going to take, how painful this transition is going to be, how quickly we want to get to a period of stability. It could take months, it could take years, it could take decades. Like I don't really know. I'm optimistic, and I know that many of us are going to be leaders within that and choosing to exit early. But we all have to, in order to create that new earth, we have to exit the old world, and we all have to consciously choose that. So those of us who are recognizing that we have to leave the old world will do so early and be those beacons, be those lighthouses, so that those who are still within the old world, as it's falling and crumbling, and they recognize how it's just full of lies, they'll have someone to look to and say, hey, they're doing it. Let's go be like them. Let's go start that. Let's go do this. And we'll just have these examples, and it'll just get easier and easier and easier to transition. It'll be like a snowball effect. But I'm down to be the smallest speck of the snowball and start that thing rolling. And that's what I see most people in this community as being that first little roll down the hill, and saying, I don't really care if anyone joins me. I'm going. We'll see you at the bottom or at the top, depending on how you want to look at it. But yeah, does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I mean, we have to be the light. We are the light. I mean, we are Jesus. We have to be the light, and we have to be the ones to share the truth. And that's, I come from a very, I used to work at a campground, a Christian campground, the Nazarene, and there was like 72 churches, so 72 pastors, 72 youth pastors, and I spent like 6 years of my life there, along with my children and my husband, and now it's like, it's like, that's not the way it happens. It's just, that's not right. It's wrong. What you learned is wrong. That's not what happened to Jesus. So I think, yes, you answered my question. I think it's like an education process, and so like we have to truly understand, like the true story of Christ. I mean, we have to be the educators. We have to be not just I think like we understand the gnosis and we resonate with everyone in our community, but I don't think everyone's going to resonate with us because they're going to be like, "What the heck are you talking about?" You know? So
Yeah, and
so yeah, yeah,
we have to let them be like that because that's part of their journey and their process, and we can't rob them of that experience.
correct.
They're choosing
Correct.
to stay away from the truth and to live in lies will incur pain and suffering on them in some form or another, and that is not for us to do anything about. It is actually only going to incur pain and suffering on ourselves when we try and steer and redirect something, because even if our intentions are good, that is a form of manipulation. And that's a form of lying. It's a form of distorting away from the truth. And so, even if it feels like we're trying to do the right thing in that moment, if we're trying to take away someone's experience of where they need to go and how they need to progress, and trying to rob them of their free will, that we will experience karmic repercussions. So that's why it's so important to have that that sort of surrendering approach where I'm only focusing on me and my growth, and I'm more than willing to share with anyone who is inviting me to share, but I have to wait for that invitation. It's so key. It's so vital. And I mean, and this has been absolutely huge in my life of waiting for that invitation. I have to wait for an invitation to share. I have to wait for an invitation to speak and to be open about things, because if I don't, then and it happens even faster now, but I experience repercussions very quickly. So I've learned through all of those experiences that anytime someone is hesitant to hearing what I have to say or doesn't really want to, then I don't share it, and that's okay. You know, they get to be how they want to, and I still get to love them. I still get to be, you know, and sometimes loving them isn't necessarily like, you know, allowing them to walk all over you or anything like that. Like, we still have to establish our boundaries and say, no, you are free to do as you will, just as I am, and I will be following the truth. I will be following God, and you're always welcome to come with me, but I'm not going to force you to come with me. And just having that sort of non-resistance attitude at all times is going to allow us to flow into that place of abundance and always be led to that highest spot by God in all sorts of senses. And it's going to act as that sort of magnetic pole where we are only attracting those who are ready to hear the truth and not those who are still, and will actually repel away those who are not ready to hear it. And that's all for the best. It's all for the most expansive growth of this collective experience in general. It's just to fully trust that magnetism and that God is going to put us exactly where we need to be and bring us exactly where, you know, who we need to be brought to at all times. Just that absolute trust.
Yeah, that's what is happening within my family now, and we haven't talked in a while, but it's just really, it's working through me, and it's a process of just me being the light, and my husband seeing the energy that I have because of me fasting and me juicing, or, you know, me really going into Sabbath on Saturday and just making that change, you know, and we have to, I mean, we just constantly have to be, you know, the examples, and I really commend Morete for sharing and coming out and just being, you know, just being the light, you know, with you and your wife. And I wish it was the other way around. I really have a hard time. I mean, I don't cook meat for my family. I refuse to. But I do have to, you know, cook for them in very subtle ways. And so yeah, I found a place where I can purchase.
I would challenge that, and language is really important. You can choose to cook for your family, but you do not have to. So just make sure when we're speaking, because we actually cast spells every time we speak. And so when we say things like, I have to do something, you're casting a spell on yourself. You're choosing to cook for them.
Right.
And maybe that is the expression. Maybe there are ways that you can cook for them to help sort of transition them and things of that sort of nature. But just get really clear on the wording that we use on ourselves, because we can really get stuck in these spells where we're stuck in these spirals. So just wanted to say that really
Right.
quickly. Sorry for interrupting.
No, that's fine. Actually, I'm only cooking for my husband. My daughters, they're on their own. One lives with me, one doesn't. And so it's really just cooking for my husband because, but he's, it's a process. It's just, I told him it's elimination. We've gotten away from coffee and, it's just a process. I feel as though he's the breadwinner right now, but has been the last year and a half because I haven't been working. So, I do. But you know what? We've got oranges, and it's just a process. And it's been, and when I'm speaking, I have this wonderful smile on my face because I know that, the whole journey is a process. And this morning he asked me where I was going first, and I'm like, I'm going to Mexico first. So he knows, and it's his choice, it's his free will. I mean, and I so appreciate, you're being kind and you're being so honest with us, and your honesty is what makes us grow. And you've been really honest with me, and it has really made me grow and made me flourish, and just staying plugged in to every life. And it's just an amazing journey.
It truly is.
And-
Let me stop you one more time with the making. I didn't make you do anything. I didn't make you do anything. You chose to have this experience, and you chose to let me in. You invited me. I can't make you do anything, and that's what makes it even more powerful, in the sense that you own this. I am nothing but your mirror. The only way that you could have someone like me to show a mirror to you is by you doing the work and stepping into that power, and you choosing that. So really, stand with honor. Like I'm honored that you chose. I'm honored that you're choosing to hear this. I'm honored that you have that humility. I can't make you do anything. But that's just another wordplay that we do on ourselves when we say someone made me sad or made me do this, even made me do good things. Like no one can make you do anything. It's all a choosing. We're never victims. We're always in that driver's seat. But yeah, sorry for interrupting again. Just wanted to chime that in there.
No, you're all good. I'm driving, and you're all good. So yeah, it's wonderful. It's just it's just awesome. I'm just so elated right now, and so all right. Well,
I appreciate
yeah, brother.
I appreciate you,
And,
Becky. I love you so much. Thank you Thank you for shining so brightly and so beautifully and being so vulnerable and authentic with us. It truly means a lot, and you are such a beacon for others. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Yes, with all this, I'm starting to grow my own food now, and in the whole conversation, I see the parable of when we compare ourselves to being the seed, and we first, before we can share the seed, we have to grow through our own dark stuff, through our own shit, and we can feel the warmth of the light and the sun where we are growing to. And when we break through the moment where the darkness is gone and we are fully in the light, then we can grow to our full potential and be what we are really meant to be. And the result of our work in growing further and further will be that we can provide shade and seeds for others as well. And that's what I love about this family and the process. And just as you said, Justin, we are only mirrors for each other on what we are really meant to be and who we really are in our core essence. And we cannot make another seed grow. We can only do our own inner work and grow for ourselves. And in that, be an example.
Truly. Yeah, it's so powerful that way. Wow, thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. And just the sort of allegory of growing seeds and translating that to everywhere. And that's why seeds are so much talked about in the Bible, you know, the mustard seed. And yeah, it's beautiful. If y'all could give me, I mean, feel free to keep talking, but I'm going to go grab my headset. Apparently there's an echo on YouTube, so I'll be right back.
Thank you for that, Patrick. That was beautiful. I resonate with what you had said and putting it so simplistically. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it's just as Justin says, the seeds are being taught in so many ways. And when you look in the parable of the seeds in the Bible, where it's being said, where we are all given the opportunity to be and to grow and to play, create the seeds for the larger community. And in the question you just asked about how is it gonna integrate or penetrate within in churches right now, in my opinion, the way is just keep on growing. Keep on growing on your path, keep on reaching towards the light, and in the end you will provide seeds and it will expand and it will bear fruit in multiple ways. But just keep on going on the path you are going right now, and others will see what's happening to you, and that's the true magnet. They will resonate with what you are doing, and it's their own choice whether or not they want to grow on their own and follow their own path and their own journey. And we all grow on different levels but just by doing the work, that's the way to go.
All right, I'm back. I got my headset on. It's got a thumbs up from the YouTube. We're good. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, just you gotta let me know on that kind of stuff because I can't always hear what's going on. But I love figuring out tech problems and solving them. So problem solved. Yay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the conversation. That sounded like a good one. And I shouldn't say sorry.
No,
So,
Patrick.
you know.
Patrick was just capping it off, and kind of like bringing it full circle.
Yeah, I love Patrick. I love you so much. You are just such a gift. You imbue such a wise approach with such a compassionate care. And man, if y'all are not in the juicing journey Facebook group, I know a lot of people here aren't on Facebook, but wow, Patrick shares some just incredible memes, just very uplifting and very just good reminders of why we're here and what we're here to do. I always love reading them. So thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
All right. We've got a bunch of other people on the Telegram. Is there anyone else who wants to chime in today? Got any questions or comments or stories, stuff you're going through?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hey, let's do Debbie first, and then Ronnie, you can hop on.
No, Ronnie can go first because I've been.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you because it's always lovely listening to everybody, and their outlook at that point in time on whatever is happening in their own worlds or on a world scale. But Ronnie can go first.
Okay. Well, thanks, Debbie. I love you and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, Ronnie, what you got? We can hear you. We could hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, cool. Well, such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, I just want to share something that a really wise man told me. I had the pleasure of being at a campfire with Ole Dammegard 2 nights in a row this fall. And we were talking about a thing that I experienced 1.5 years ago that I see as a miracle, but I really don't know if it was a miracle, or maybe time will tell. I was in an apartment with him 1.5 years ago, and this was when he found out about all this false flag operation all over Europe with the New World Order, and just before the Corona. This was like 24th of October, and when he found out that they also planned to have a really big, massive chaos in Manchester, London. It was Paris, it was Barcelona, and also Rotterdam, where they have all good supply for Europe. And he went up, and nothing happened after this. And I told him that, was I part of a miracle now? Because it was planned, as it seems. His conclusion is that the whole thing we see today with the whole Corona New World Order stuff is just 50% of what they were planning. So I don't know if this is true or not, but if it's true, I would say that this was probably like a miracle, because I was in an apartment with him and we was like, I don't know, 5-10 people, and it was 40 square meters in a small apartment in Sweden when he found out this information. And so this fall, when I met him again, and when we were sitting at the campfire, I just asked him, were we part of the miracle back then? And he just told me that, Ronnie, whenever when you experience something completely magical, you have to just promise me that you embrace it, because every time you see something or experience something magical and you think, oh, that was just in my imagination or something like this, it's almost like you lost the flow of it, you know. So he said that always be grateful for everything when you experience something in this, and take it for real that it actually is a miracle. And then you will even experience more miracle. So life in itself, or the creator, or what you want to call it, will give you even more magical stuff. But only when you take gratitude and you embrace it.
I love that. And it's so true. And, you know, just to quickly touch on the coronavirus stuff, like, yeah, this was all just the initial stages of kind of their end game plan of just keep ramping up more and more diseases, have the 5G towers put in place so that they could weaponize the frequency and cause more and more sickness and deaths. And it was just going to get worse and worse and worse. And they were going to keep blaming the germ theory when in reality they were, they were actually doing the frequency stuff and just killing people left and right. They were going to kill all the old people, and then they were going to target the children. And yeah, it was going to get worse and worse and worse. But so what we're seeing play out is just the kind of the very watered down version of that plan, just so we get a taste of how evil these people were actually willing to go. But it's true, like you do sort of have to recognize that God is so good. God is so good, and the miracles are so abundant, because it could never have gotten that bad. You know, it wasn't allowed to be played to that extent, because they were starting to I don't know. I kind of see it as they ran out of time. Like this cycle, the way that the Bible is read, and the way that you can read the stars, and the way that you can sort of determine what's happening, it's all very cyclical. And that's why the alpha and the omega isn't a beginning and end. It's a perpetual, like the torus field is perpetual. It's perpetual energy. So we're always going through these cycles, these lower bowls and this higher bowl, the low ram and the high ram. And it's 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 so we came out of that and we're moving into that higher period where we're going through a whole era where it's just going to be Santos Bonacci term calls them the great year, and this is just this greater cycle that we can all observe and study, and that's why astrology is such a powerful science to study, and why they do such a good job at keeping us away from this science because it is the clock and the framework that God has established, and you either know it or you don't, and if you know it, then you can kind of gain a glimpse into the larger trajectory of where things are happening. And so this is a miracle in a sense, in that it's just but it's just a regular progression of how things are. And so this is the manifestation, the Q and the Trump and all of them are just a manifestation of the transitional team that's being led by God to enact and to spin this clock and to shift us into this next paradigm where we're all going to shift into it. And there's still a lot of things up in the air because we have to determine how, the details are largely unwritten. Um, but it is happening and it is going to happen. It's just up for us to determine how long it's going to take. But yeah, well said. I mean, it's so vital to have that appreciation for those miracles. And when you do, I mean, when you're open to God's miracles, then they just happen all the time. It's just, like everything becomes a miracle. And you're just like, wow, you're so enamored by it. You gain your childlike sense of awe of this creation around you, and then everything just becomes magnificent. And yeah, there are larger scale ones which affect more people, and um, but every little bit of it just becomes this. You wake up each day with gratitude for another chance to be embodying on this physical plane with an understanding that I'm always connected to God, and then you never lose that. You never lose that childlike wonder. We get to be the child and just walk around and have fun, and that's all we're supposed to do, really, is just to complete the journey, step into our divinity as physical beings, and then play. We're just supposed to play. We're supposed to play and have fun and find what makes you happy and seek the truth and cause no harm. The satyagraha and ahimsa, like just that. That's it. Those are the only two laws. Those are the only two rules. Not even really rules, but it's the best way to operate, best way to be. So yeah, I kind of went off there, but I appreciate you sharing that, Ronnie. Did you have anything else to add to that, or any other questions?
Not anymore. Yeah, but just a short one then, because I get so excited about this. So fantastic to talk with you and all the rest of all the people here.
Truly.
I get so much, and it's like night now in Sweden, so I'm gonna have a hard time sleep after this. Yeah, but anyway, since the time when all this happened, and I came into also through the same guy, I discovered everything about flat Earth. And I start to listen to you and Charlie and all this, and it makes me so grateful for everything in my life, for my kids, for my work. For example, today I was in my music studio, and I was so grateful that I have the possibility to do art and stuff like this. But the irony of it is that the more harmony I feel, the happier I am. The more my friends are divided. I have friends that says, "Oh my God, I get like so inspired of what you write on your Facebook or whatever, or when we meet, you seem to so happy nowadays, And on the other side, I have like family members and sisters that think I'm completely insane. So what do you think? How do you see the future? When will these two worlds come together again? Because it seems like it's more, even the happier I am, the more divided my friends becomes.
Right now, we're not heading towards unity. We're heading towards division, which is part of that grand design because we have to make a choice, and that choice is becoming a lot more firm, and it's not to be, there's not any sort of like, impending doom or anything to worry about, but it's an idea like, do you want to live this transitional period in heaven or hell? Because for those who don't believe what's going on, those who don't adopt this way of being and move towards the truth and step into it like we all are in this community, it's going to become a living hell for them after a while. And it's all self-imposed, it's all righteous, it's all just, but it will become a living hell. And so that's the bifurcation. That's the dualistic split that we're going to experience, and it's part of this baptism of fire that we're collectively going through, where those who are not ready to move on to this new earth will have some very painful lessons and plenty of ample opportunity to switch over and do the right thing and move towards this new earth. But ultimately, if they don't, it will look differently for every single person. But just imagining after disclosure starts to happen and people who still choose to live in this idea that this is all fake and, I can't believe my world's falling apart, and they start to go insane and they start to live in this delusion state where, they enter hell and they will, it's sad to say, but they will eventually, most of them will take their own life, or they will experience some sort of disease manifestation one way or another, and that's another form of taking one's own life. It's choosing to die. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a way that our whole consciousness is upgrading, where we all have to go to this point of singularity at some point or another. And so any who are choosing not to, um, will fade away in some way or another. But prior to that, in this transitional period, it's going to be very, very split, extremely split. Um, and it's hard to say what it will look like for however long. And people are already choosing very much so, right now. But that choice will always be available for people to redirect. And so I would just say with people in our personal lives or where we've gone from, a lot of times I very much ascribe to the idea that we all have roles that we take, for each other. Like we all chose to incarnate with certain people in our lives and to experience certain individuals and characters, in order to learn from. And oftentimes, these characters are our greatest challenges to grow past. And that's why I love Charlie's teachings about, having parents being a pair of rents, and your birth family being someone that you do kind of have to move away from. And that's not to invite that. That's not to say you can't invite them to come with you, and that some of them might. But most of the time, they're our first sort of adversary to overcome and say, you know what? I'm not going to stay in that old world, no matter if that's what I've always known or that's what you've always known and that's what you're trying to push on me. I'm going to recognize you as a lesson to be overcome and learn from, and I'm going to grow. I'm going to move past this stage. It's like I mean, I used to be a big gamer, and I see it as it's like a boss. It's like a early stage boss. We've got to beat those early level bosses in order to level up and keep progressing and keep going. But these family members can operate and come out of the shadows, and maybe we hadn't seen him before, but then all of a sudden grandma comes out and starts berating us because we said something, and she operates as one of those bosses, and it's like, oh, okay, well, grandma, I love you, but I'm still gonna be this. You don't have to listen to me, and I'm still gonna love you all the same, but I'm gonna do this because this is the right thing to do, and this is the truth. And so each time we're presented those opportunities, we can really grow from. And I've really loved sort of recognizing, restructuring, reprogramming my way of approaching challenges when those kind of things come up is relishing in them and saying, wow, this is a challenge that I get to really lean into. And if I do, then that means there's going to be some really powerful growth on the other side. And if I don't, then that just means I'm going to experience that challenge at some point again or another, and usually in a little bit more severe form, because that's how it works. It just progresses until we take the challenge and do the lesson. So really stepping into that challenge initially and saying, hey, like I know we were born together, and I was having a conversation with someone the other night about this, and she was saying that her brother, who she thought was coming along with everything, and he was starting to see it, and all of a sudden he just snapped and started cussing her out and saying he didn't know her, and how could she be believing all this stupid shit and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, he's chosen, and he's also acting as this representative from God to provide you a lesson that we should not be determining our self-worth based on our relationships with others, because that really the only relationship that matters is our relationship with self and God. Well, ultimately our relationship with God, but it has to come through the self. Um, so if that entity, if that individual is operating in this way to degrade us and tell us that we're wrong about something, and use a familial relationship as like something to hang over our heads or whatever else, then that's our lesson to overcome and say, you know what? I am not bound by this. You have no power here. I am rising above. You're welcome to come with me. Always have those open arms, but we can't be held back by those who wish to seek us within the old way, the old world. Um, so that's kind of a roundabout way of saying that the old world will likely maintain for the duration of this transitional period, however long it takes, and that duration is of our choosing. And I see the split between these two worlds is going to be pretty drastic and pretty extreme, because it has to be. It's Satan or God. Like we used to have this gray area sort of in between idea about how it was, but it's not. You can't serve two masters. Are you serving Satan or are you serving God? And that's it. That is it. So these two worlds are going to be very clear of which one is following God and which one is following Satan. Not that Satan is an actual entity, but Satan is just the absence of God. The devil is just the absence of God. It's evil or good. It's the same sort of thing. Right or left. That's all the Bible teaches us about. It's just, are you in your right brain or your left brain? And there's not going to be any sort of middle gray area, wishy-washy in between. It's going to be extremely clear which one is which. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it was really nice. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when I was sitting there with this at this campfire with all that, and the feeling I got was almost like Lord of the Rings movie when they have been on this adventure, and they come back and they sit in this little pub with a beer each, and just sharing this experience together, like that kind of magic. It's I don't know, but for me it's like this is like the essence of life, this kind of building this kind of relations.
Yeah, it's recognizing that God's always going to have those people be led into our lives. And for most of us, it's been up to this point, it's been a rather lonely journey, because that was part of the process. We needed to have that sort of lonely experience in order to really refine ourselves, because I can't truly be in relationship with anyone if I'm not in relationship with myself. If I haven't completed the or at least begun to complete the sacred union within, completing the father mother child, if I haven't done that, then I can't truly know anyone. And that's why, people get so stuck on divorce and marriage and things like that that's written in the Bible and take it literally. But it's not about the literal interpretation. It's about, we have to perform the sacred marriage within before we could even dream about successfully being with someone physically. We have to do that process first. And not to say that you can't grow together and come to that realization together, because many people do. But I know for me personally, like I'm divorced, and going through that sort of guilt and realization of like, wow, there's no way I could have married anyone. I wasn't ready for that. I didn't even know myself. Um, so yeah, just knowing that, I guess all that say, just knowing that God's going to put, and even those that teach us sort of difficult lessons, it's still perfect. Like everything is perfect. Everyone that's brought into our lives is absolutely necessary for us to experience in that particular moment, and is perfect for us. So there's nothing that's not needed. Um, but the more that we get clear on this, the sort of easier those relationships become. And it does become like that experience where we all just get to have these kind of talks all the time and just get to have like a campfire experience where we're all just gathered around and talking about whatever and just getting really deep on everything. As y'all know, I like to get really deep on everything. So I so appreciate, like, I can't even begin to express uh, how just enlivening it is to my soul to just be able to speak freely and openly to people who genuinely want to hear what I have to say and not have to bite my tongue or curb what I have to say at all. So thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you all like for being here. Just want to throw that out there. I love y'all so much.
And Ronnie, you started with the question whether or not the campfire experience was a miracle. But when you connect to the here and now, and you look at who is asking that question, that's you in the here and now, and you are and were experiencing it as a miracle. And just by expressing that here within this group and sharing it with us, it's a continuation of that miracle. And in that way, it keeps on flowing and expanding. And yeah, that's really great. And we can all be part of that miracle into expressing it and miracle together.
Yeah, well said. Anyone else got anything to say? Ask or questions, comments?
Hello,
Hey, Debbie.
how are you?
I'm I'm pretty fantastic. I'm on top of the world. Had a good
I know,
day
I really
day
like.
out in the
I
sun.
really,
I've got a dragon fruit in my hands. I'm talking with my best friends. Like, can't get any better than this.
wow. I don't think I've had a dragon fruit. To be honest.
Yeah,
So
they're
I
pretty
might want to try that.
exotic looking. I imagine this is, I just bought this in a store in Texas, so I can't imagine it's the best quality one. Um, but I've had some that are a little bit more flavorful than this. Um,
Yeah, you get
it's kind of
that.
like the texture of a kiwi in a sense. It has like a lot of
Yes.
seeds and that kind of soft fruit.
Yeah. Actually, that's something seeds that we were talking about. There's so many things like mumbo jumbo in my mind that I wanted to say about um, some of the different members' comments, which were all beautiful. But when we were talking about, everyone's obviously talking about juicing and fruit and that one component of um, getting where you need to be. I was juicing some oranges yesterday morning and I was like, isn't this actually really beautiful that, okay, you're juicing your orange, you've got one orange. How many seeds are within that orange to then go on and, if you're collecting seeds and planting them, that always multiplies and makes more.
Right? And that's why fruit trees are the way. Like that's why it's so when you just get really simple with it, it's so blatantly obvious that that is how we are supposed to be eating because not only do they produce fruit in absolute abundance to feed as many people, but they also produce seeds like crazy and you just
Mm,
have to spread
mm.
them around and once a fruit tree is established, it creates its own topsoil. It requires zero work or maintenance once you have it established, and it just produces food. And
Yeah,
and it just gives it to us. It's perfect.
yeah. Like even like some of the things like when you're, whether you're at what stage you're in, so many years ago, making well, not that long ago really, but you're making salads and all sorts of things and you go, oh, well, here in Australia we call them capsicums, but I think they might call them peppers or something elsewhere. But how many seeds are in one of those? And you just go like, oh my gosh, I've got to get all that out, scrape that out, blah blah blah. um but it makes me think there's another reasoning behind this now. like how many seeds are contained in one thing. I don't know, something I was onto yesterday. But I was really maybe want to talk about at the beginning of the chat, where it was talking about being sovereign and passports and things like that. Many years ago, I had these weird dreams about not having a passport and that you didn't need one. But the tricky thing is that in all these dreams, and which funnily enough, when I was describing where I ended up, and what happened at the place, you never need. You only had problems when you wanted to come back. They wouldn't let you, and they're like, "How did you get here then?" And you just say, "Well, I got on the plane and I got here. I've had a lovely time, and now I just want to get back home." That's when the drama starts, which is a bit weird. Now that I know more than what I knew years ago, yeah. But one of the dreams was actually even more, and I think about it now when we're talking about connecting dots and things. One of the dreams was that I was somewhere where it had very pastel coloured houses all joined together. So I now know it was like Europe, Italy, somewhere. But when you got off the plane, there was like a massive, well, an angle ramp, and everyone that got off the plane slid into the ocean. And I was like, oh gosh. And I kept on trying to think, like, where is this place? And just like, I'd wake up and I'd say to whoever was around me, family, relatives dropping in, friends dropping over, oh, I had this bizarre dream and blah, blah, blah. And they're just weirdo and trying to describe, oh, well, maybe it was here or there or whatever. But the thing is, I don't have a passport, and I've never wanted one until recently because I do want to get to Mexico. But I think to myself, what will we call this when apparently we will be set free and we can roam the earth wherever we like and no one can stop us and there's no borders and all that sort of thing. I don't know what is anyone's thoughts on that. And I think, well, Santos got out of Australia and he's now in Mexico, but you can't just build yourself a little ark and take off, can you? I mean, I have thought in the past because in my line of work, I speak to people from all over the place and where they've come from, Afghanistan, whatever, refugees. Oh, I just want to come to Australia. It seemed a better lifestyle. And I'm like, well, what if you want to leave Australia? Like, can I make a little boat and take off and go where I want? But these were all just random thoughts prior to, say, the last year or so of me going, oh my goodness, like, I had these feelings, but they were never validated.
Yeah.
So I might be sounding like a schizophrenic whack
No,
job,
you're
I'm
great.
not sure. But I just feel like all those things that was feelings is actually now feeling like, well, I was on the right path, but I hadn't actually connected things properly yet. It was just like, you're just having some really strange ideas there, Debbie. But yeah, has anyone got any thoughts on that? Because I hate paperwork too. Like, I don't think I've filed a thing in my life. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I'll deal with that one day. I'm just like, yeah, I can't be bothered with overthinking. To
Right.
be fair.
Yeah, it's
And now with I found myself in the last couple of months, I don't want to know about I don't want to know that what we all know really in ourselves, that I don't want the proof of it in the news or in a message or, oh, here's the proof today about this and that, because we do know inside ourselves. I just feel I get off my track and maybe even a little bit anxious about the reporting on the Q dropped this, because I actually haven't. I've seen a few random ones where someone's pointing this and that out, but I've never seen the whole lot. And then someone said, "Oh, you go to this spot," but I think that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for me now to backtrack to the beginning, because like I'm just an everyday person in Australia, so I don't understand the the system over there, the voting system over there. How the parties work over there. I didn't even understand it here, and I don't want to.
Well, it's designed that way. It's designed to be as confusing as possible. But I would just say, as far as like what it will look like, again, it really depends on how we go about this. I see. Like, I think, you know, I'm certainly very very optimistic about what is going to be revealed and the opportunity we're going to be given
Yes,
by,
I believe it to be all true,
yeah,
but I feel like I'm not at a point now where I need to have that validation because I know in myself it's all true and how horrible
right.
and evil things are.
You don't,
Um,
but there are
yeah,
people who do need that, unfortunately. And so therefore you've already identified that as you've got enough, and therefore you don't have to suffer really anymore by seeing that kind
with
of
the horror.
information. Yeah. You already know. You already trust God. You already trust that where it's heading, and that's the whole point, is to go through that whole transition to get to where you are. So bravo, you've gotten there. But it's not for us. This whole show, everything that's coming out is not for us. It's for anyone who needs it, for anyone who is still claiming that child trafficking does not exist. They're going to get to go witness whatever level of proof they need to in order to get it into their this stubborn heads that yes, this does exist, and yes, it's horrible, and you can see as much as you want, and that ultimately will be a lot more painful for them, and that's just it's righteous, it's balanced. Um, but uh,
Mm.
but
I'm
yeah,
not trying to. I don't want to.
uh,
I absolutely, in no way, shape, or form, want to. You know, have an ego-based thing with what I said. Where they're at. I mean, we're never done. We're never done realistically, are we? As in done in the work on ourselves.
no, we're never done.
It will
It's
always
always
be
growing.
continual. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah. I suppose then when you've got people saying things, but as you were saying also in this chat, um, you have to be invited to say it. Do you know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
if
Yeah.
you've been going around saying, "Oh my God," like a sprinkler, yeah, like and I have been. I've thought, oh gosh, like we talked about things like with ears to hear and eyes to see. Um, a lot of the time, it was just really frustrating
Right.
because the people didn't,
Well,
sadly.
you really have to get clear on your own intent behind what you're sharing, because I do think we should all share the truth at all times in whatever way we feel called to. But we have to be
Mm,
really clear on who's doing the calling. Is this out of is this God leading me to share the truth, or is this my ego to make like getting me to try and convince other people who don't want to hear who don't want to hear what I have to say? And if it's out of ego, if I'm trying to manipulate people and force them to see the truth, then that's always going to incur suffering. That's not waiting for the invitation. That's not doing as God intended. But there are some who are very much openly called to share the truth widely and as far as possible. But
mm,
it's done in a way
mm,
of whether or not one person whether or not zero people resonate with this or a million resonate with it, it
mm,
doesn't matter. I'm still speaking the truth because I know it's the right thing to do and I know what I'm being called to. Um,
mm.
but if you're trying,
And I
yeah,
do get this when because I've done it myself, where in the duality of the worldly way of going about things where you need facts, figures, and proof. If someone's saying, "Oh my gosh, I've just heard this thing, it's so shocking," um, I think maybe the one sentence I can say back is, "Look, I don't have all the facts, but I do believe this to be true."
right.
Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because I don't have proof myself. I haven't gone out and discovered it and gone, yep, that's 100% happening right there. So we're going to call that out. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
It's not
I mean,
like I feel like it's so far away from me because I don't believe it is for a minute. But I can just say that I feel it's true.
yeah.
And I don't have to lay out a whole boardwalk you know, a whole uh, I don't know what the word is, like a whole, you know, display of work to say, well, this is the proof.
Right. Yeah, because
I think it's just
that's
small
living in the left
sentences
brain.
here and there. Yeah. But there was another thing. I hope I'm not being too all over the shop here.
No, go
But
for it.
when we were talking about putting on the armor of God and things like that, just in my mind, I was like, I think like in olden times, and I know that I actually designed a tattoo for somebody once, that they wanted to resonate with their Greek heritage. So they wanted Ares, the god of war, and it was made to look like copper. And then I said, you know what? I think we need to do a little bit of turquoise here and there to show that it's beaten and weathered. Because you know that copper does emit a turquoise color over time.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yeah,
And it made
that's
me
how you
think
know
there's
it's
been
real
this,
copper.
yeah, and it's a conductor, yeah.
Hmm.
So it made me think in the chat earlier on that isn't it funny that copper emits that color, because I do think that copper is the turquoise color is to do or associated with the throat chakra.
Hmm.
So
I
maybe
didn't
the
know that.
armor of God weathered speaks the truth.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's just these random thoughts I get. But I think I've gone all over the place here. But that's just the thoughts I had around the chat today.
Well, thanks for sharing, Debbie. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I love being here. Yeah, I love the other thing as well towards, I think it was I'm trying to see, it started with an R, um the lovely gentleman before. You know, when you think about all these things I've learned about, like, because I had no idea about being a sovereign womb man, let's say, the inalienable rights and to do with family and friends, like our inalienable rights don't include a pack of friends and family, do they?
Mm-mm.
So the things we've got a right to are, was it fresh air, water, food, and somewhere to live, and the pursuit of happiness. So maybe that's the part where, actually, I didn't think about this. Maybe this is the part where the pursuit of happiness is magnetizing towards our tribe
Absolutely.
as
That's how it
an
works.
inalienable right. I don't know. These are probably more early morning random thoughts here that maybe aren't making any sense, but that's just how I'm feeling.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. I appreciate it.
That's okay. That's okay. And I hope you're all doing well. And I don't know what time it is wherever you all are, but you're having a great day or night.
The time is now.
Love you all.
Love you too.
Yeah.
All right. Um, is there anyone else who would like to speak? Probably gonna hop off here in just a little bit.
Hello, this is Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi. Yeah, I just have something. I gotta go here pretty soon as well, so I don't plan on going on for too long. And thanks everyone for being here. Um, yeah, I think just the things that are kind of going on for well, everything you guys are saying is there's so much synchronicity going on as you're talking. I can relate to like everything that's being said. So like almost like I had a dream about it last night or something. So
Right.
it's pretty amazing. Yeah. Well, mainly just what's on my heart is so much is on it, but mainly just kind of wondering what the next step is in my life and in our lives. And I mean that from a practical sense, like where to go, where to be, because my husband and I are thinking about like what is our next step. And we don't have kids, and I don't know that we will have them as we're older. Maybe that's just an excuse. Maybe it's possible, and I just don't know that possibility yet. But anyway, so we're like, well, let's look at houses, or where should we live? Meanwhile, I'm having this song Texas playing in my head from Chris Ray. I love that song, and I grew up in Texas. So there's just all options, around as to what to do and where to go. But it's interesting because last night I did a meditation, and this has a question in it, but just also a discussion.
Sure.
And I was like trying on, what does it look like to live in a house and buy a house, because I've never done that before with my husband. And what does it look like to move to Texas? What does it look like to go to these different states, that we're looking at that don't seem to have any restrictions? Like you're talking about, Justin, with like this literal and physical split, that's going on. And then I just kind of relaxed, and I saw us all like sitting around the campfire. I saw Justin, I saw you, and I saw Marie, and I saw Charlie, and I saw Colleen, and I saw Aaron. I saw the faces that I knew the faces of. I saw us all, and it's like, I don't know what's the answer. Is the answer kind of to stay where we are and kind of work within our communities and be that light, or is it to just get the what out and go be with people who the sky is the limit, which is kind of a funny thing to say now, but you know what I mean.
What?
So
Yeah.
that's just what's on my heart now, and I'm just bringing it up, but I don't feel like I need to have any answers in the moment. And then finally I'm like, oh gosh, would it be cool just to go to Mexico? And I'm like, well, how do we get our cats through the border? Like, these are things that I that I think about. So like I said, I don't have any major question. Just come on,
Well, you can
share
totally
that part.
get your
That's
cats through the border,
oh,
and that's going to become easier and easier as we go on. But uh, yeah, there is no right answer because it's different for everyone. The the clearest answer is to just continue gaining that clarity. Continue doing the work and continue meditating, continue focusing on diet, continue because then you don't have to worry about multiple decisions. It's just like God's like, okay, here's where you need to go. Here's where you're being called to. Here's where you're being led, and we don't have to take any thought. We don't have to worry. We get to take the load off. So if it's still unclear, that would be my first thing to do is just to focus on that clarity. Like what maybe you're being called to sit and gain that stillness wherever you are. Maybe you're being called to move so that you can gain that stillness a little bit easier somewhere else. I don't know. But I think that there are, and in each decision we make is not there's not necessarily a wrong one, but there are ones that are driven by thought, and then there are the ones that are driven by God, and the ones that are driven by God are always going to lead us to that place of abundance faster. And the ones that are driven by thought are going to lead us to those lessons that we needed to learn, which we're all perfect, and there's nothing wrong with learning those lessons. And if we needed to, then so be it. There's no nothing wrong in that. But yeah, I yeah, just to say that there's nothing specific to really say other than just really focusing on where God's calling you, because God's not speaking to me to tell me what you're supposed to do. God's speaking to you.
yeah. Yeah, and thank you for saying that. And it's interesting because through all this process, my husband and I actually are like, we've been praying more than we've ever prayed, together. Just, hey, just, some guidance, and just, I don't know, maybe that's, and then I also hear this or feel this in my heart. Like, I think this is like the 40 days in the desert
Hmm.
time, or I'm not sure. So I just feel this sense like, no, we're right where we're supposed to be. And what I know about my experience so far, is that I've always been led to the next step. And it's been very clear. It's not like, oh, I'll just go there. It's like, no, I'll hear it. As far as where I am now right now, I heard a whisper that said Vancouver, which is, Washington State. And I was like, really? Okay. And that's that's where I'm now, and I just followed it, and that's where I met my husband, and now I can like totally in hindsight see why I was led here. It's so much easier to connect the dots, looking back. So
It's always so
anyway,
perfect.
yeah, it's so perfect. It's so my ego is so uncomfortable in the unknown. So that's the part of not figuring out. I don't have to figure it out.
Exactly.
I don't have to. Yeah. So anyway, thank you.
You're doing great. I really appreciate you sharing, and it's like it's beautiful when we do share authentically in that sort of space because you never know who needed to hear that in this particular moment. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for your service.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you as well.
Yeah. I could probably do one more person before I hop off if anyone else is feeling called to speak. Does anyone want to share something real quick? Okay.
Hello, Justin.
Hey, Debbie.
I did want to ask you something about your time in the forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to know if there was something that you wanted to report about that you were like it was awe-inspiring for you, like just something you noticed, like maybe the animals or what they were doing or something taking place. Because I had this feeling that there was something you noticed that was like another dot connection, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't say there was um, anything in particular that jumped out at me other than just the whole experience of being very still and just moving very slowly. Like, just being very intentional with my movement and my breathing and um, just being out in it and hearing the birds and um, yeah, the trees, and it was very quiet, and yeah, just laying in my hammock and watching the wind blow and um, yeah,
Yeah.
I can't say there was any particular moment that stood out as like, wow, this is, but it was all it was all a wow. It was all really amazing.
Yeah. Okay. I just thought you might say something. I don't know what, but I was just like, it was something it was a noticing, maybe.
Yeah, just noticing myself and noticing the beauty around. Yeah.
Awesome. That's all I thought, that you might have something really wonderful to inspire us for the day about what happened out there.
Yeah. Other than just that God is beautiful and God is everywhere, we just have to notice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, all right, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and hop off here. Unless, Michelle, did you have something you wanted to say? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, if I can, if that would be okay.
Yeah, go for it. We'll end off with you.
Okay, I'd just like to say hello and thank you for having me and allowing me to speak.
Of course. Thanks for being here.
And yeah, hopefully you understand my accent. It's Northern Ireland, so it's
Oh,
pretty broad.
yeah, I gotcha. Gotcha loud and clear.
So it is. And yeah, I've been finding on my journey that I used to follow quite a lot of truthers, and I think I thought if I didn't follow so many, I'd miss out on something.
Mm-hmm.
And what's been happening this past month for myself is I had to just, delete the chats who I was being part of, especially on Telegram. And I find that I'm sober. I'll be sober, God willing, 18 years coming in July. And at the start, it was always just God and I, you know. In AA, they tell us we have to find a God of our own understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And here in Northern Ireland, it's very much we grow up with a God of hellfire and damnation, and he keeps a record of all our wrongs, and we'll burn in the fire if we don't repent, and all those sorts of things, you know. So
Right.
I find my own God, who is a beautiful, loving, kind, happy, funny, gentle, just a wonderful God who is my best friend, and I love him
Yeah.
so much.
That's all he is.
And I found out that with following these channels that I was suffering from information overload, and I actually got quite sick because I have poor health anyhow, and I was getting so tired, but I was so afraid that if I didn't watch somebody or listen to this video or listen to that video, oh my goodness, I'm going to miss something, and what will happen? The world's going to end and I'm not going to know what to do. And I would get downloads from God since this last year. And I just had this beautiful message, and he said, Michelle, it's always been just you and I. You have to cut out the middleman. You don't need to go through the middleman. Just the way President Trump actually spoke about the pharmaceutical companies. He was making the medication in America so much cheaper. And he said he was cutting out the middleman.
Yep.
Now, that's not to say that I don't listen to anybody. I do. I'm very drawn to your family and to the Freak Sense family. And I find myself, this is the only family, and I just want to listen to this one. And I find that my head's not as congested and my brain's not overloaded with stuff. But I was just wanting to know, do you have the fruit diet? This is probably going to sound really silly, but do you have to be on the fruit diet to be a member of the family?
Oh no. I mean, there's no membership. It's all
Yeah.
it's all about seeking the truth. Like if you're
Yeah.
seeking the truth, and that's not to say that if you're honestly seeking the truth, you will find the fruit diet, the frugivore diet, because that is the truth. But no one's going to cast you away because of your choices. That's just we are all here to celebrate our journey and to walk this path and to be casting our net to the right. And as long as we are seeking the truth and causing no harm, that's all.
Yeah,
That's all
no,
there
it's
is.
not. Yeah, I know that this past year I have hardly eaten red meat. I have gone off meat, and I don't want to eat meat and poultry. And that's just came naturally with all this really intense spiritual journey this past year. But the thing was, I wanted to say as well, I had mentioned it on the channel when I was listening to Marie and Charlie earlier, that I've had 523 infections, and I've had the same number of antibiotics. And I have a urostomy bag, and I've had some major surgeries, and I can't seem to get rid of infections. I have E. coli, which I can't get it out of my body. And my consultant, when I saw her the last time, she put me on a drug, Hiprex, which is an acid. It's like to produce acid in my urine to try and kill the infection. And then when I saw the comments earlier, some of the guys were saying that, guys and girls, I just call everybody guys, were saying, you can't have anything acidic. And I'm just wondering, I'm at my wit's end, just trying to get help to get rid of these infections. These infections are coming fast and furious, and I get about 2 days respite in between them before my temperature's sky high again and I'm sick again, so I just don't know what to do, and I would really appreciate if anybody had any idea or any, because I'm passed from one doctor to the other, consultant to the other, and nobody seems to know what to
No,
do.
and they don't know. And so,
Yeah,
you know, that's the thing is the answer is quite simple. Um, but it's all about going back to the mother and what she provides. And the way that the like, because all E. coli is, all the bacteria, the unhealthy bacteria is just it's a form of you know, parasite. It's a form of and
yeah.
they only thrive in an acidic environment. So
Well, you see,
trying to kill with acidity is not going to help. It might kill a particular strain, but it's creating an overall environment that's just going to allow them to flourish even more.
Yes,
So what the best method is, and truly the best method, if you want healing and healing the fastest, is to look into going into a juice fast, a juice feast.
okay,
Um, and
okay,
and and
yeah,
and if you're not willing to go that far, then just start incorporating more and more fruit into your diet.
yeah,
Because these kind of things cannot survive off fruit.
yeah,
They
because I,
don't live because it creates an alkaline environment, and nothing harmful can live in our body when we are in an alkaline environment. And there are many great resources out there. Like in the chat, people are recommending Dr. Morse is a fantastic wealth of information. John Rose is another great one. He's got a great YouTube channel. Josh X is another fantastic resource if you can find him to reach out to via his Patreon or wherever. Um, uh, but they're all going to tell you the same thing, and it is the solution. It is not it isn't, and it's not necessarily an easy solution because we're so far gone and we're so far
yeah,
conditioned to operate otherwise. Um, but
yeah,
it's all a
because
choice. It's all a choice.
yeah, because I decided 3.5 weeks ago that I wasn't going to take any antibiotics, and I didn't take any, but I made myself really ill, and I started coming out in bruises all over my legs, and my temperature was up at, well, we would say it was 39.2, which is really high, and I had to end up going. I did see the doctor. It was the emergency doctor, and straight away he said I had to take antibiotics to get the temperature down, and they were concerned about the bruises coming out on my body, and it's just been, I just, yeah. If I thought the juice diet would work, it would be brilliant, but I just,
I know it would work. I'm not speaking from hypothesis or from any sort of guessing or
yeah,
I know this works. I know fruit is the solution, and that's why it's definitely not, there's no requirements to be in, this is not an organization to be a requirement in, but this is the truth. And
yeah,
so when we stay away from the truth, we incur suffering. And so
yeah,
the pain that you're experiencing is because you've deviated away from the truth, which is Mother Earth, and the most abundant source of food that Mother Earth provides is fruit. And so if we can
yeah.
get
So
back to that, then she heals us.
is this fruit morning, noon, and night? Is this fruit, and is this all like fruit and vegetables, all juiced? Is that the diet? That's all you eat?
So you know, you have to honor your journey and where you are with it, but ideally,
Yeah.
yes, you would be 100% raw and primarily fruit, if not 100% fruit. And it takes a minute, and so don't try and jump to the end, you know, just honor your progress and say, okay, I'm going to
Yes.
start with having a fresh pressed juice every morning. I'm going to replace my breakfast with fresh juice. And this can't be store-bought juice. I want to clarify that because they boil and they pasteurize the juice, which destroys all the life in it. So it has to be fresh pressed. Or you can just have fruit. It's even simpler in that form. Juicing is just a great way to accelerate the detox process because all diseases are just forms of dis-ease, you know, when our body is out of ease because of something we're consuming, some level of toxicity. And so juice is a great way to accelerate the detox process and allow people to experience true health in a much faster manner. So if you can really
Yeah.
make the commitment to go on a longer juice feast right off the bat, you can really do wonders and reverse so many. I mean, the number of testimonies of people who have healed any wide range of illnesses and diseases through this method is astronomical, and they say they've never felt better in their entire lives. But it does
Yeah.
require a commitment. It requires a
Oh
choice.
yeah. I bought my mangoes yesterday. I got mangoes here in Northern Ireland, which is great. So it is, but they're from Brazil. But anyhow, it's brilliant because we don't have that type of fruit in our climate here. And but I just wanted to ask, and this probably sounds silly again. Is there not acid in fruit?
Oh, it's not so, and that's another misconception that people have. There is acid in fruit, like lemon juice is extremely acidic, but
Yeah.
it's not about consuming acidic. It's about alkalinity is all about ease in the body. So
Yeah.
our body, all it wants is glucose as fuel. Our body
Yeah.
produces everything that it needs. It produces all the vitamins, minerals, the proteins, everything. It gives us it fuels our muscles. All it wants is glucose. And so anything that takes a lot of toil to gain glucose from is causing acidity, because when our body is in toil, when we are diseased, when we're not in a state of ease, we are in a
Yeah.
state of acidity. Whereas
Okay.
fruit is the simplest form of glucose. It is the easiest way for our body to quickly convert that to the fuel that it needs. And so even when you consume lemon juice, which is very acidic in nature, it is such an easy process for our body to break down that it's still alkalizing to our body. So that's a great question and a big misconception there.
Thank you. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it, and I would just like to say thank you and lots of love to you all.
Can I quickly say something, Justin?
sure.
Um, hi, was it Marie?
Michelle.
It was Michelle. Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Thanks for sharing. And just want to say quickly that you know, there's a great I know you're in my group chat. If you want another, there's a juice feasting um group chat that I can send the link. Just ask in the group chat and tag me, and I can send you the link there, and you can join it. It's a wonderful support group of people who are going on this transitioning journey and looking for and so you can gain resources and things of that nature there. Um, and then just
Okay.
go back and listen to this. And I dropped a few people and doctors. Well, I mean, Dr. Morris, not a very conventional doctor, but John Rose, Dr. Morris, Raw Vegan Rising is a great YouTube channel that he covers juice feasting really well. Um, but there's a lot of great resources out there, so don't hesitate to reach out to support within this community, because that's what we're all about. We're all about empowering ourselves and gaining that health so that we can truly do the work and go to that next level.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Love you
Bye
so
bye.
much. Bye.
Love you. Bye bye. Bye bye.
I was just going to say to Michelle that I started making the quinine when Charlie and Colleen and Tony had put the recipes up, and doing juicing as well. And just before that, though, I had an experience with somebody giving me at work alkaline water. And here in Australia, it was called Kangen water. And then I had an experience where I had my left foot completely blew up. And I didn't know what had happened. I hadn't physically done anything to it. I thought maybe I'd been bitten by something. Ended up off work for a week, and it was me alkalining, which caused this eruption within me because I was so acidic. So I had to go have X-rays and what are they called? The other scan thing, a blood test. And after a week, I went back and
got the results, and I had scleroderma. And my doctor said, who I'm very open with, like I said to him, the only thing I can tell you that I have changed is that I drank this Kangen water. And he's like, oh, don't be so silly, Debbie. I don't know what you're on about. But that actually caused this to happen. I 100% believe it. So he didn't even want to look at my foot, because I was trying to tell him that I broke 3 toes on this one foot in the space of maybe 4 months, but I didn't stop working. I was always on it. I mean, I was doing stupid things. I was driving a manual car with like not the ball of my toes. I was using the clutch with the other end of the foot. I just didn't stop. So it hadn't healed. So for 4 years, I had this massive like callus, which was actually the scleroderma. But it wasn't affecting me going about my daily life. It would get really hot sometimes. I'd be like, oh, wow. But so the juicing and the quinine, within 5 weeks, that's gone after 4 years of being there.
Wow, that's brilliant.
So I can attest to the fact that, yes, it 100% works. And when the doctor said, oh, the only thing on your blood test that's out of order here is, it said 15% scleroderma. I said, well, what the hell is that? And he goes, oh, well, don't worry. You're not complaining. So it's all good. You can walk on your foot again. So I went away and I didn't even think about it until I was listening to some of the shows. And I thought, I'm going to research what that thing actually is, yeah? Because I really don't care about a lot. So, truly. So when I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, it says a hardening of the skin on the outside or on the inside. And I was like, oh, well, we can't see inside ourselves, can we? What else is going on? But I can 100%, and I should have taken photos or something, but I don't even bother with these things. I'm just like, yeah, it worked. I've proven it. What's next? So I can tell you. But what I also did, just Michelle, quickly, is that when I started making the quinine, I made 2 batches in a day, and I dispersed it to everybody that I let's try it. I didn't realise that even one of my own sisters, she was on all these medications for other things, because even though we were close, because that's fallen apart now, but even though we were close, I didn't know the ins and outs of her medication. I mean, I knew what she apparently had, diagnosed things, but she became violently ill overnight drinking the quinine. But that was like with me and the alkaline water. It starts that process of getting worse before it gets better.
Well,
Okay.
I would just clarify on the alkaline water. People do your own experiments and research with it. But from my take, Kangen water, alkaline water is a gimmick to make money, and it doesn't really help.
Yes.
Distilled water,
given a bag of it.
distilled water is really the best.
Yes, you're right, Justin. I was given the bag. I'm a very open person. I was like, okay, I'll try it. I can only report what happened. Have I ever had it again? No. I have to admit this.
That's why.
I never had it again.
That's why
And
fruit juice
I know
is
it's some
amazing.
it's some
Because
selling
it's
system.
fruit
to
juice
a
is
pyramid
amazing
system.
because fruit naturally distills the water, and so we get this beautifully distilled, activated water with all the minerals, all the glucose,
Yes.
everything in
Yeah.
it. It's just perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah. So just back. So yes, you're right, Justin. But just back to my sister, I had no idea what to do when she's on the phone the next morning saying I'm violently ill. I'm covered in a rash. I've got all this going on. I felt so terrible. I felt, oh my God, what have I done? So I thought of the best thing to do, which was I said, can you Facebook message Tony Wheel? Because she's a naturopath and an iridologist. And she might be able to say like why this is happening and what to do. And then she did, and it was all good. But I'm I'm just trying like everyone else.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I can report, Michelle, that things get 100% better, and not just with. So I had the foot ailment. I've been very lucky in my life. I've had nothing happen to me, no operations, no dental fillings, nothing. But that's the one thing that happened, and that was, I can say, with a proven result of healing it. I've just lost my train of thought there about what was the next thing I was going to say.
But I do believe that it will help. But I think there's clearing out the toxicity first, which puts people off. But it will 100% get better.
Okay, thank you so much, Debbie. I really appreciate that, and I'm definitely going to start. Yeah, going to look into it, and yeah, I'll go on Justin's channel and have a look and get some
Yeah,
information.
and
Yeah.
there's lots of support in and around the group. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
So
Okay.
I think
Don't
I think
hesitate
that
to reach out.
yeah, I
Thank
think if
you.
you could get onto Tony, who is
Yeah. Hey
always
guys.
putting things.
I don't mean to interrupt. I do have to hop off.
Okay,
But
thank you.
this chat is
Yeah,
gonna
thanks,
stay.
Justin.
This chat's gonna stay here. So I just wanted to say that and say that I love y'all, and I will talk to y'all next time. Thank you for being here. Thank you everyone in YouTube world for tuning in as well. I love y'all so much, and
Love
yeah,
you, Justin. Thank you.
Love you, Justin.
love
Love
y'all.
you.
Bye
Love you
guys.
Love
all.
to all.
Thank you. Thank you for being
Bye.
here and all you do.
Love
Yeah.
you.
Bye.